It's all about the number game. You have about 543 parliamentary constituencies that are at stake in this general election. And of those, 91 are polling today. About 140 million voters across 20 states will be queuing up outside polling booths to cast their votes, elect a new government, elect their local candidates, who in turn will then elect India's next Prime Minister. Mr. Narendra Modi, the leader of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, is certainly hoping to win a second rare term. If he does, he'll be the first non-Congress Prime Minister to have won 2 consecutive terms in an Indian election, which is why a lot is at stake for him. But of course, he's facing a lot of anti-incumbency. You've got rising unemployment, government reports pegging unemployment rate at about 6%. That's a 45-year high. There's extreme agrarian distress. Farm incomes have fallen to an 18-year low, according to experts. You have many protests that have dogged Mr. Modi's 5-year tenure. Of course, the opposition promising a solution to all of this. Congress's Rahul Gandhi targeting Mr. Modi on all of these fronts and promising a minimum income guarantee of $1,000 for 50 million poor families if voted to power. So it's populism versus the might of a right-wing leader at stake in these elections.
And Neha, I just want to point out to our viewers, they're looking at live pictures. These are just various pictures from around 24 polling stations around the country right now as India goes to the polls. So, Neha, these elections are happening at a time where there's heightened tension with Pakistan. How big of a role does this issue of national security, how big is that going to factor into why Indians are going to cast their ballots and who they're going to cast their ballots for?
According to experts, there are 3 big issues in the Indian election. One, of course, unemployment, and 2, the agrarian crisis, like I said. And the third biggest issue, believe it or not, is national security. All of this changed in the month of February when you had that terror attack in Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir, in which 40 Indian security personnel were killed, following which India conducted airstrikes in Pakistan. And since then, Prime Minister Modi has made national security the key point of his re-election bid. He's been speaking to voters at rallies saying that, look at me, I'm someone who's equipped to handle any kind of threats from Pakistan. I'm a strong, decisive leader. With your mandate, I can do this once again. I can ensure that all sort of aggression from across the border emanating from Pakistan comes to an end. The opposition, of course, accusing Prime Minister Modi of trying to politicize India's armed forces, saying that it's not just your army, it's the country's army. You can't use it in your election pitch. But that hasn't stopped Mr. Modi. And to add to this, of course, we had an interesting development from Pakistan on Wednesday when you had Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan endorsing Prime Minister Modi's candidature, saying if Mr. Modi comes back to power, India will have a chance to have a conversation with Pakistan, and maybe the tensions between the 2 nations can dial down a bit. Now, that puts Mr. Modi in a very peculiar position because he's made Pakistan the central enemy while speaking to voters, asking them to pick him in order to challenge Pakistan. We don't quite know how voters will respond, of course, to all of this, but we'll find out on May 23rd when the counting of votes takes place.